Last day of Monday, the 28th. Tomorrow is March. And yes, I might look slightly different. Roll with it. Let's see. Honor Society applications come back tomorrow. We have Honor Society thing coming up on Friday. We the People, which is an 8th grade advanced English, advanced social studies class. Applications went out today if you are interested. And then you can turn in tissue boxes for B points if that's the thing that you want. Pacha! Quizzy thing. I'm just going to run through Quizzy thing real quick. For the most part, you guys did really well. I think like your guys' average grade was, I says 80 on there. I think you guys were closer to 90 on yours. So overall, it was decent. There was a handful of questions that we struggled with I was going to take a look at, but overall, I wasn't much of a problem at all. If you are one of my handful of kids who did get lower than a 21, you can resubmit it if you want to. All right. On this one, because kids kept asking me about poster thing, about who is underneath poster thing, I figured I would just make it a question to see if you could figure out who was underneath poster thing. And being as that's a list of all of the different Olympians, it became a process of elimination to figure out which Olympian was supposed to be listed on there. And which Olympian is it?
Aphrodite.
So how did you guys go about figuring out it was Aphrodite? Sam?
The HRO thing in the middle.
Right, except it was covered, so you couldn't see the HRO
No,
thing.
you can.
Right. Well, yeah, this isn't the picture that was on your guys' thing.
Yeah, but I sat here, so I could
Yeah, it was
see.
also covered on there, too.
I saw the HRO.
On the one on the web, I mean, unless you went to the one on my actual website, because the one I linked
Yeah, I think
had
I
it
did.
covered. And then I also had black tape over the one down there to prevent that. Because I wanted you guys to think, not cheat. Iggy,
I just checked every answer to see if it was somewhere else on the chart.
that was what I wanted you to do. That was what I figured was the easiest process, was just to go through and figure out which gods you can't find, and it became as simple as that. And then Aphrodite was the one that was not there, which is why I covered it on the question, and I also covered it on the poster, so that way you couldn't try to see the thing in the middle of it. So yeah, it turns out there's two variations of how Aphrodite's born. One of them is the story I told you about the big chops that went into Uranus when fell down and hit Gaia, forms Aphrodite. That is the most accepted one. They put one on here that has her being one of Zeus's children, which was this rare version, but it's not one that we're going to study, so I took it off of there because it just confused kids, because they were like, I thought Aphrodite was born of sea foam. And the answer is, Aphrodite was born of sea foam, but they gave you this one rare version of it. So that's why I crossed it out and made it a question. Which of those is the most ironic? Silly.
Social media site named after Hades.
Why?
Because he's antisocial.
And so the idea of all of those connected to the gods and what they're the god of except for his.
It was
flashlight.
Yeah.
Question.
Yeah, was yours the flashlight one?
Yeah.
No, I must have changed it for your guys. I thought I gave you guys the social media one. So I gave you guys what, the flashlight company named after him? Oh, I must have made your guys' harder. I apologize. I mean, not really. Probably you guys are so smart, but yes. So why would the flashlight be connected to him and be ironic?
It's dark.
Because he likes living in the dark. The math tutor business being named after Athena, what's she the god of?
Math.
Wedding dress designer for Hera, she's the god of.
Marriage.
And then shoe company named after Hermes, he's the god of.
Traveling. Messenger.
Choose.
Messenger and speed, nicely done. And so I figured that's why it would connect on there. What is it the Greeks thought would happen when you got your string cut?
You beat one.
There you go. Not die. That was the moment that you were born.
Question.
I give you guys a different one on yours too?
Yeah.
Man, I didn't
I
realize
had
that you.
3.
So what I have you guys do for yours?
It was like which one's not true, and it was.
Oh, that's what I did for you guys. I tried to make your guys a slightly more thinky one. Oh, good job remembering it then. And this one. Who should Gaia have prayed to in order to fix her bad marriage?
Hera.
Why?
Goddess marriage.
There you go. Which group was the tallest?
Cyclops.
So who's taller between Olympians and Titans?
They're the same.
Who's taller between the posters of the gods around my room and the Titans?
The Titans? Majors?
So who are the posters around my room?
The Olympian.
The Olympians. What are Olympians?
Titans.
Titans. So which is taller?
They're not.
Yeah, so all three of those are the same answer. The gods and the posters, Olympians and Titans are all the same thing. So the only one that's different is going to be Cyclops, unless you were the two kids who put down Mr. Brovicast. Then the answer is thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, Truman.
But like Titans would be like, let's say they're just like dudes, you know, and they're like 6 foot tall. Those posters aren't 6 feet tall. They're like 2 feet.
Then we got to the two verbs that went into your. This is the much shorter sentence for your guys's. I just put extra words into yours to try and confuse you, but the answer was the same. The one that people got easily was
Created.
the one that people struggled with
Was.
because apparently helping verbs are tough, and so it was just was and then created. And then the three adjectives.
Scary, dark, weak.
There you go. Same thing there. Your guys has just had a few extra words in there to try and throw you guys off and confuse you. But it was just the three adjectives. Other than that, go you guys. Questions as far as that goes? No. Then let's do a quick rewindy thing and then get into the new things for today. And we're back. All right. So let's see. The first children. Why does Cronus not release them when he's supposed to?
They're ugly.
That there. So I added some new stuff to it. So we find out he runs down there, and then he sees how horrifyingly ugly they are. That makes him want to go all pukey. So then he turns around and runs away and just leaves them there the entire time. So they get left down there, and they come back. In today's story, we get to see them again. The three brothers. What's special about Prometheus?
See the future.
There you go. Epimetheus
Can't see the
Dumb.
future and he's dumb.
and Atlas.
Strong.
And works for me. And then Cronus wants to have a race of small people that he can crush and bring him joy. Who creates that race?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. What two ingredients?
Mud.
Mud and
Dirt.
Dirt and water.
Dirt and water, which makes. And that's where the mud comes in. What gender are they?
Male.
They're all dudes. And then, what season is it?
Summer.
Always summertime. And that's why it was considered the golden age of mankind, except for getting stepped on occasion, and then humans live and things are good. Carter,
So is Prometheus just constantly making these mud babies?
until we'll get to the second race where things change. But yeah. My goal is today, we should finish out like all of this huge chunky thing over here. Alright, so we left off with this part, and the fact that Cronus and Rhea end up having wee little children. First one we'll call little baby Heshaw. There we go. And why does stabbing baby not work?
Immortal.
What's the problem with throwing baby in a hole?
Mom not happy.
Would work. The fact that she might escape and mom not happy. So what's his solution? Eaty baby. How many babies does he eat?
5.
6.
7.
5.
5. And 1.
Rock.
And what's the rock's name?
Rocky.
Zeus.
In mythology, not at your house.
Zeus.
Mr. Brovicast gets my rock. Rock. There goes baby Zeus. And why does he not get to eat baby number 6?
Because he's
Rock.
not tasty.
The wife is scared.
Whose idea was it to give him a rock?
The rock god.
Nicely
the rock.
done, and that's where Gia comes in, and that's when he eats the rock. And then we went down, we have Zeus, and Zeus decides that, or finds out about his siblings and the fact that his dad is the king of all the gods. He decides to free them. What's his first plan to free them?
Killed.
Did we get to the first plan to free them?
No.
Giant sword?
No.
Alright, then we'll pick up from there. Did we get to the fact that he knows they exist?
Yeah.
Okay, so he knows brothers and sisters exist and that his father is Cronus, king of all the gods. Zeus is irate and decides that he is going to go up and overthrow his father and release all of his brothers and sisters because he is anti-baby eating. So his first idea is to take a giant sword, go up to Mount Olympus, kick in the front door, run over to his father and go, rah! Whoop! And just chop his father right in half, right across the stomach, freeing his brothers and sisters. And he goes and tells his girlfriend his plan, a girl by the name of Metis. And he goes and tells Metis his plans. And I'm going to go upstairs, kick down the door, take a giant sword and go, rah! Flop! And then chop my dad in half, freeing my brothers and sisters. And then we're going to attack my father. And his girlfriend goes, yeah, that's not a good idea. He goes, what do you mean that's not a good idea? We can't leave them in there. She goes, well, I agree, but your sword idea, that's not a good one. He goes, come on, swords solve everything. She goes, well, no, think about it. Where are you going to cut him with the sword? And he's like, right across the stomach. She goes, all right. Where are your siblings? He goes, in the stomach. She goes, okay. What's the problem with this plan? Because when you cut across the stomach, what's going to happen?
But the babies.
So is it going to kill the babies?
No.
No, they're immortal. But you don't want to meet your siblings for the first time when they're like, I used to have arms and a leg, and they fall over to one side. And then you're like, let's rise up and fight our father. And they're like, It's not very effective. So she goes, that's not the best plan. She goes, think about it, hon. If there's things in the tummy, and you want to make things in the tummy come out of the tummy, how do you get things in tummy to come out of tummy?
Toilet.
In the least disgusting way possible. And so the idea is, let's make him throw up. We're going to make him go blah, blah, and then that way when he throws up the children, everything will be good. He goes, genius. I'll go up there and I'll confront him again and I'll just start punching him in the stomach repeatedly. And if I hit him hard enough in the stomach, and she goes, oh God, you're not very smart, are you? She goes again, where are you going to punch me? He's like, in the stomach, a hole. She goes, where are your siblings? He's like, in the, yeah, that's not a good idea. She goes, no, that's probably not a good idea. He goes, well then how do we get the things in the tummy out of the tummy? She goes, why don't we give him a pukey potion? A potion that'll make him go gurgle, gurgle, blarga, blarga, and then everything comes out, thus freeing them. Zeus is like, oh yeah, that's probably a much better idea. Let's do that instead. So they create a special pukey potion, and he puts it into a little bottle, and he goes running up to Mount Olympus. Goes up there, puts on a disguise, like a little wig, or dyes his hair pink, and then goes up there and knocks on the door. And Cronus comes to open it, and Zeus is like, hey, I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd come by and say hi, see how things are going. And Cronus is like, I don't recognize you in that pink hair. What's your name? And he's like, my name is Zeus. And he was like, oh, that's a weird name. He was like, oh, I'm the god of socks. And he was like, oh, well, come on in. And he invites Zeus in. Zeus is like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, watching football. He's like, oh, who's playing? And Cronus is like, my favorite team, the Tennessee Titans. And so they sit down and they're watching football together. And Zeus is trying to figure out, how am I going to get pukey potion inside of Cronus' tummy? He's like, hey, do you have anything to drink? I'm kind of thirsty. And Cronus is like, yeah, there's a fridge back there. It's full of my favorite drink, Mountain Dew. And so they go over there, and he gets 2 Mountain Dews, and he's like, blurka, 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 pours them out. And he's like, do you want one too? Cronus is like, yeah, I'll take a Mountain Dew. And Zeus is like, oh, thank goodness. And then takes his pukey potion and goes, blurka, 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 and dumps the whole pukey potion into one, mixes it up with a finger, and is like, no. And then takes him back into where Cronus is. And he's like, hey, thought you might like a Mountain Dew also. Here's one for you. And hands over 1 drink to Cronus. Zeus takes his. And he's like, gurgle, gurgle. And Cronus takes his too. And he's like, gurgle, gurgle. And as soon as Cronus drinks in, he's like, oh, no, I think that was a Diet Dew. That does not taste right at all. He's like, oh, it's kind of like right there. He's like, I don't feel, and throws up. Pukey potion. Pukey potion. Blah, and he throws up right in front of Zeus. And when he throws up a child onto the ground in front of him. And Zeus is like, and he's like, blah, and then throws up a whole litter of children. 5 babies and 1
Rock.
And that's when they both look at the rock, and Cronus is like, I don't remember eating that one. He's like, the babies I remember, but the rock is a new one. And Zeus is like, you got an addiction, buddy. And so all of a sudden, those babies slowly form into Zeus and his brothers and sisters. And he goes, hey, not sinners, rise up. And all of the other brothers and sisters stand up, and they're like, attack. And they go running at Cronus to attack him. Cronus freaks out. He's like, I'm being attacked by pukey babies. And he turns around and runs outside, and he's like, fellow Titans, I'm being attacked by pukey babies. Join me. And the other Titans come running up there, and a giant brawl happens and sort of breaks down, like between the Greasers and the Socias, except this between the Titans and the Olympians. And they throw down and they start fighting each other. And all of the gods, these Titans that are out there, start picking sides. Some of them join Cronus' side, some of them join Zeus' side. It all came down to whether or not you were pro-baby eating. Cronus was very strong on the, we brought babies into this world. They are delicious, dipped into barbecue sauce. Every parent deserves to eat a baby. And Zeus is like, no, baby eating is wrong. Babies have rights too, and they shouldn't live in stomachs. And all the other gods out there pick one side or the other. And instead of Cronus and his children it becomes Cronus versus his children in this big war between all of the gods. Eventually, this war between the gods is renamed Titans versus the Olympians, which is a bit on the ironic side because currently it is going to be Cronus is the Olympian because he's living on Mount Olympus, and Zeus is the Titans because he's not one of the Olympians. But when they win, Zeus becomes the Olympians, and then the other ones become the Titans. So they sort of switch sides. In this big battle, though, neither side can win throughout the entire thing. No matter how long they fight, neither side can get a lead. And why can neither side get a lead?
Immortal.
They're immortal. And so you can't win a fight against someone you can't kill. When you take your sword and you go running up to him and you go, arm chop, leg chop, leg chop. Oh, and they grow back again. You're like, oh man, all over. It's so exhausting. Chop it off. And so it goes on for a long time. Atlas ends up getting promoted from just being strongman to being general of Cronus' army. Cronus is like, I'm a good leader, but I'm not very good at this whole army fighting thing. And Atlas was being all big and strong and yelling, Atlas smash. So he makes Atlas the leader of the army. Prometheus becomes like his head person that helps him figure out everything. And Epimetheus just runs into walls on a regular basis and stuff like that. Whenever they would throw a grenade, Epimetheus would grab it and be like, you're so pretty, and then blow up. It was all kinds of adorable. And so this continues for quite some time. Till one day, Zeus gets fed up with all of this. And he's like, you know what? There has to be a way to win this war. It's been going on for hundreds of years. Neither side is winning. There has to be a way to change things. So he decides to seek out advice on how to win. And so he goes to the oldest, smartest person he can think of, which would be his grandmother, known as Gaia or Mother Earth. Problem is, Grandmammy Earth has gotten a little old, and sometimes grandparents get a little senile when they get older. And here is where Grandmammy Earth has gotten a little on the senile side, where sometimes what she says doesn't always make a whole lot of sense. And Zeus goes down and talks to Grandmammy, and he's like, Grandmammy, I'm trying to beat my father in this war, but no matter what I do, neither side can win. Do you have any advice? If I were to win, what is the advice you would give me to help me? And Grandmammy Earth goes, he who releases the beast within shall turn the tide of war. And Zeus goes, means nothing. And she goes, he's like, I heard all the words you said, woman, but that means nothing. You're just a crazy old lady. And he leaves. But him hearing that advice suddenly changes everything. Prometheus, who keeps using his super na-na-na-na power, once Zeus hears this, he goes, na-na-na, oh snap, and sees, now that Zeus has heard that, Zeus is going to win and Cronus is going to lose. Prometheus can't see why Cronus is going to lose, but he can now see that Cronus will lose the war. So he goes and talks to Cronus. He goes, hey, I did my na-na-na thing, and I looked into the future, and I see that Zeus is going to win this war. You are definitely going to lose. Not only are you going to lose this war, but any god that's still on your side gets tortured horribly at the end of the war. So, my advice is go apologize to your children. Go down there, suck up your pride, and go, I apologize for eating babies. Even though they're dipped in barbecue sauce and delicious, I will give up baby eating. And Cronus refuses. He goes, baby eating is my right. I'm never giving up delicious babies. That's why we have barbecue sauce. I am forever going to keep eating babies. And Prometheus goes, well, if you are not going to apologize, I don't want to get tortured. So because of that, Prometheus switches to go to Zeus' side. He abandons his best friend and decides to go to Zeus. But Prometheus doesn't want to abandon his brothers, so he goes to bring them with him and goes to talk to Epimetheus. He's like, Epimetheus, bad news, Cronus is going to lose. He refuses to apologize, so I'm switching sides and going to fight with Zeus. Will you join me? And Epimetheus goes, I love squirrels. And Prometheus goes, well, that's a good point. Who doesn't love squirrels? They're adorable. But will you help me fight? And Prometheus goes, they have fluffy tails. They go, whooka, whooka, whooka. And Prometheus goes, hey, it's a stick. And he takes out a stick and shakes it. And Prometheus is like, a stick? And then Prometheus throws the stick. And Prometheus is like, ah! And goes running after it. So he brings Epimetheus with him. And then, I should say follows Prometheus, not follows Epimetheus to Zeus. Whoopsie. He follows Prometheus over to Zeus, and channeling my own inner Epimetheus, he continues being dumb and does not change. They both go to talk to Atlas. And Prometheus goes, hey, big brother, did the future thing. We're going to lose. Not only that, but any god who stays on Cronus' side gets tortured, and you get tortured the worst of all. The most horrible thing happens to you. You have to come join us. And Atlas refuses. He goes, I will not join you because I will not abandon my men. That is the most dishonorable thing I could think of, to just leave them in the middle of the war. Even though I'm going to get tortured, I am going to stay here. And Atlas stays and continues being the general of the Titan army. And Prometheus and Epimetheus leave him behind and go and join Zeus. When they join Zeus, nothing happens. Even though Prometheus goes over, he goes and knocks on like Zeus's little cave. And Zeus is like, hey, who? Wait a minute, I know you. He's like, aren't you that Prometheus guy? And he's like, I am. He goes, what are you doing here? Prometheus goes, well, I did my na-na-na thing, and I saw the future, and you're going to win, and I don't want to be a loser, so I came to join your side. And Zeus is like, that's awesome. You're welcome on my side. He goes, ooh, who's this other guy? Can he see the future too? Prometheus goes, that's my brother Epimetheus. He can't see the future, but he can do this. Epimetheus, wall. And Epimetheus is like, bang, and just runs the wall and then falls down. Prometheus is like, he does that a lot. Zeus is like, that's awesome. Yeah, he's on my team too. And so Prometheus and Epimetheus join Zeus, and the war continues. And Prometheus ends up talking to Zeus, going, hey, I saw the future, and I know you're going to win. So why are you not winning? And Zeus is like, well, you're the worst best friend ever. I would like to win too. And so they start talking, and Zeus tells him, hey, so I tried to get advice from Grandma, but her advice meant nothing to me. She said something like, he who releases the beast within shall turn the tide of war, but I'm assuming my grandma's just being crazy. Prometheus knows what she is referring to. Because what's she referring to?
Her children.
Brothers.
Which ones?
Children.
The ones trapped in Tartarus. See, the thing is, no other gods know about them except Cronus and then Prometheus and probably Atlas, all of Cronus' closest friends. So Zeus had no idea that they even existed. So Prometheus explains to him, hey, there's this giant underground pit down there, and in there are the old gods, our older siblings and brothers, and I think she was saying if you release them from where they're trapped, they are going to help us win. So that's what you should do. And Zeus goes, well, does Cronus know about them? He's like, absolutely. He goes, well, why didn't Cronus release them? He's like, well, from what I understand, they're a little intimidating when you see them. So I think that's what the major issue was. And she's like, well, I don't care about intimidating. That's fine with me. I am definitely going to try and release them and help them out. So he finds out where the path is, and he decides to run down there and go free them. And he finds a little path, and he's like, I'm going to win the war, I'm going to win the war, and goes running down the little path, finds the giant doors, throws open the giant doors, finds the giant underground pit, and walks in, and he's like, my name is Zeus, and I am here to win the war, because I'm going to free, oh my God. And he looks down the pit, and he's like, huh. Whew, intimidating. Yeah, that's an understatement. Those things are, whew, those are something. But I really want to win. So, suck it up, Buttercup. Okay. And he goes back over to the pit, and he looks over the edge. He's like, hey, my name is Zeus. I am here to free you and have you help me win a war. Would you like to join? And the monsters go, blocka, 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 blocka. And he's like, well, I don't speak monster, but I think that sounds like a yes. So, do you agree to help me beat the guy who's kept you trapped down here? And they go, blocka, blocka, blocka. And he's like, ooh, that sounds like an angry yes. Here's the small problem I have. Looking at you is horrifying. it makes me want to take swords and jab them into my eyeballs until I die. And I can't die, which tells you something. So here's the agreement that we're going to have to come up with. When I free you, you're going to help me win the war by crushing all the other gods. But at the end of the war, I can't look at you. Don't take offense. So here's the deal we're going to come up with. At the end of the war, will you agree to go to the edge of the earth where there's these giant mountains, hide on the other side of them, and then crouch down so I never have to make eye contact with you? And the monsters go, blaga, blaga, blaga. He's like, I know it's sad, but it's better than me dying looking at you, and it's better than being in a pit, right? And they go, blaga, blaga, blaga. And he's like, sounds like a good deal. He was like, shake on it, and they're like, "Diki, diki, diki." And they shake on it, and he throws down a rope, and he brings up the big, ugly monsters. And he's like, you're free! And out they go. Out they go. He then looks into the pit, and he's like, oh, it's not empty. There's still things down there. Being down there would still be the...
Cyclops.
And he sees the Cyclops. He's like, hey, who are you guys? You're not big and scary and ugly to look at. Why'd you get thrown down here? And the Cyclops will go, well, we have the ability to make really powerful weapons out of metal. Apparently like the most powerful weapons to ever exist that can harm gods. And so we got put down here because we're dangerous. And Zeus is like, huh? You can make weapons that are so powerful they can hurt the gods? Would you like to be on my team? And they're like, yes, we would. And so he invites the Cyclops up, and he's like, hey, you guys can come join me also. Come make weapons for my side, and we're going to go stab the people that kept you trapped down here. And everything is great. And he takes off, and the war continues. Problem is, during this war, with the big ugly monsters running around, they start being able to do enough damage to the other Titans that it starts helping Zeus win. Whereas before it was just Titan on Titan violence, now the big ugly monster can go over, pick up a mountain, go over to Cronus' friends and go smash, 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 and then put the mountain back, and the Titans are all like, all twitchy on the ground, and Zeus goes, hey, if you join my side, you don't get crushed by mountains. Who wants to be pro-Zeus? And they're like, I would like to not get crushed. And he's like, yay! And they come over. Or the big ugly gods would go up on the top of a mountain and do the atomic elbow where you jump off, and you sharpen your elbow like, and then you smash them, would crush everything, and it was great. Problem is, with all these big monsters crushing everything down on Earth, humans being super squishy, they all die. The entire first race of humans get killed by the big ugly monsters during this big war. With all the gods fighting back and forth, the first race of humans die. The Cyclops decide to make weapons for Zeus and his brothers to help them win in this big war. For Zeus, they decide to make the best weapon of all. Since he's the one that freed them, they make him the bestest weapon. And the bestest weapon is...
Lightning bolt.
Close. It's actually a bucket. You're slightly off. Lightning bolts are ridiculous because how are you going to make a lightning bolt? But you can make a bucket of lightning bolts completely different. The idea was that they apparently made him a bucket that you could reach your hand into, and it would make it like electrified snot, and you'd pull it out and be like, yow! And you would throw the electrified snot and be like all shocky, shocky, snappy, snappy. And so they made him a bucket of lightning bolts. Again, I was able to track down a photograph of what artists think it looked like from this time period. Not easy to do, but I was pretty happy with what I was able to find. And they believe this is the bucket that he carried around with him that allowed him to throw the lightning bolts at the other gods. And the lightning bolts were powerful enough that it was all shocking to the gods, all zappy zappy and causing them to fall over. Poseidon also got his own weapon, because he liked to go in there and go stabby stabby fighty fighty. His weapon being
A big fork.
the big trident, which allowed him to control water. It also allowed him to control the things in the water. Only salt water, because he didn't really care about fresh water like lakes and ponds. He's like, small fish. He liked all the big things. And then again, whenever they won a big battle, he could cook 3 hot dogs at once, which was a really exciting thing for him. So he also got himself a big weapony thing. Hades, third brother, also gets a weapon. Ish. But it turns out Hades is not a big in-your-face kind of fighter. When the Cyclops like, you get lightning bolts and you get a trident, so you can go stabby stabby, and they look at Hades and Hades is like, yeah, I'm not real big on this running into battle and having people come at me things, so do you have a weapon that kind of allows me to like hide and sit in the background and not doing anything? And they're like, well, we haven't made a sniper rifle yet. And he's like, oh man. But they make for him something that allows him to be sneaky. Do you guys know what weapon he got?
Aha.
Helm of invisibility.
You are correct. It was an invisibility helmet, or sometimes called the Helm of Darkness. And when you put it on, you would wink, disappear. And he loved using this because his two favorite attacks was he would put on the Helm of Darkness and then run into battle. Oftentimes, he would do what was called tabletopping other gods. It's when you turn invisible and you go down onto all fours and you go behind another god and you have a friend push them over you and then they fall down and you get up running away giggling. His other thing was to find out how to give people wedgies using togas, which was not an easy thing to do, but no one saw the wedgies coming. And again, if you look over here above where Granor is, and you see Hades, and you look carefully at the top of his head, you won't see it because it's invisible. But I got you to look, so it makes it kind of entertaining. You can't see an invisible helmet. So that's why I had to track down a picture for you. So because it's not up there, this was an idea of what it thought the Hades looked like when he was wearing the invisibility helmet. If you look carefully, you will... So, all three of the brothers now have weapons that they get to use. This allows them to start winning the war. They're now inflicting damage on the Titans, and the Titans, one by one, keep giving up, going like, hey, if we join Zeus' side, we're not going to get hurt. And so as more and more gods jump over and join Zeus' side, he eventually takes over Mount Olympus and is declared the new ruler of all the gods. Cronus disappears at the end of the war and is just gone. Unlike Uranus, where I find stories about him jumping off into space or hanging underneath, Cronus, literally at the end of the war, just goes into hiding. He becomes like the witness relocation program. I've seen stories that say he went to live in Italy, some that say that he went down to Africa, some that just say he's gone, but he never shows up in Greek mythology again, but there's no like big scene of him getting killed and dying. During the war, after the war, big, ugly monsters, what they have to agree to?
Go behind Master.
And they do. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Humans are dead. Now, oh man, out of order. So embarrassing. Let's go back. Humans died, and I forgot I threw this on there. So, after the war, there were several Titans who still refused to give in and join Zeus' side. So anyone he caught that during the big battle, he would take all those Titans who fought against him and threw them into the pit of Tartarus. And so that became the final resting place for any Titan that fought against him. And that's where they stayed. It basically became like being grounded in your room, but in your room is sort of like in your closet in the basement for the rest of time, which was a pretty big punishment because you didn't die. You just sort of sat down there. It was just long and boring and awful. And there was a whole bunch of Titans thrown into the pit. Big ugly monsters go to the edge of the world, hide on the edge of the world, and for the most part, the stories say that if you ever traveled to the edge of Earth and you went past the mountains, you would find them. There are stories of people traveling to the edges of the world to find the big ugly monsters that were bigger than mountains that just sat out there. Cyclops just went to go find a random mountain and then just went into the random mountain to hide in there. Humans are still dead. Humans don't get to come back yet. We're going to get to the second race of humans here coming up shortly. And Zeus is now the king of all the gods. Except we have one small issue, which we'll get to tomorrow, which is the fact that the sky is getting ready to fall and crush Zeus and all of his friends, which becomes tomorrow's issue. What are we going to do with the falling sky? Chicken Little? Yes. This is where Chicken Little comes into Greek mythology. And there was a small chicken that ran all around Greece yelling, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." And then Zeus had to kill the chicken, which is the version of the story you never saw as a child.
You know, they could just wait till nighttime, then the sky's not